All right. Yeah, so,
5.
alrighty. Yo. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 1 of the Yo Baby Daddy podcast, and today we're going to be discussing discipline and communication.
Yeah, we want to go ahead and tackle pretty much any of our experiences and also stuff that we've read up on. Like we said last time on episode 0, we want to go ahead and come in with a little bit of research, a little bit of knowledge. So pretty much question each other's experiences as Pete being a father and myself being a father. So let's go ahead and jump in the first one. So your personal experience, Pete, with like spanking your kids or like just discipline in general, whether it's you take away their electronics or physically hitting them, do you feel like it's pretty much kind of like mandatory in a way, or do you feel like it's something that based on the way you were raised, you're like, you know what, this is normal?
With my kids, it's a little bit different. My sons are different from my daughter, in the way that I can take away her electronics and then she'll listen to me, whereas my sons, uh, they will not listen to me until I either, like I said last episode, I believe in that one good ass whooping every now and then, and then I can reference that later on, so I can use it as a threat, and they'll know, hey, my dad's serious. But as far as
so basically, what you're trying to say is like get them to a certain point, so they know that the threat is real. The threat's there.
Yes.
It's never like an empty threat. That's what you're pretty much saying.
Exactly. So it's not an empty threat, but they know, hey, if my dad does decide to whoop my ass, it's going to be bad. It's basically going to be a full on spanking. So, and there's a very big divide between discipline and abuse. I only discipline my kids. I've made it very clear. I also give them, I talk to them after. I tell them what they did wrong, and why I had to whoop them. And my little one, I haven't gotten too much into spanking. He's 3 years old. It's not until he starts understanding, and I'm able to talk to him, that I want to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, from my personal experiences, just boys and girls in general, it's a little bit different. You have to go by the child. Some kids, you can take away their Nintendo Switch or their Xbox, and they're okay. They'll start to listen to you. But some children need that little bit step further for you to spank them, or for you to discipline them.
Yeah, for me, I'm in the similar boat too, because as you mentioned, certain kids. I only have 2, but my youngest one, if we pretty much like take away the tablet, it's more, or take away like a TV or something. You know what I mean? It's more of a threat than actually either like yelling at them or like spanking them in general. So yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying. It's situational based on the kid, and what I found is it's a mixture of both. Now we're gonna touch up on this a little bit more, because we did some research, and the interesting things about what studies have shown, doctors are saying pretty much about spanking your kid. It's very interesting, and I never thought I would see it like that.
Yeah, it was very enlightening, especially going into different papers and different doctors and their analysis and things like that. It was just it was really eye opening. It was really interesting, especially with researching the relationship between children. It was weird. The research that went into it. There was one study where they did just spanking in general without an object, and then they had another study with objects, and it was like, okay, I didn't know that played a key part in it, but okay. And yeah, it was I didn't think that would that would affect the study, but it really did.
Um, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. So for those who are listening, me and Pete pretty much shared notes and information based on what we found,
Hmm.
and it's interesting that studies were more mixed than I thought. You know what I mean? Because usually when you do a certain amount of studies at a certain amount of times, you eventually come to a certain conclusion. It's either yes or no. But from what we read, it was more of a mixed bag. You know what I mean? Like it has become more normal to hit your kid back in the day, but now it seems more like you don't really have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's goes with the second thing that I want to talk about the most is what do you think in your opinion it's too far? Like when you make your kid like tremble with fear? Do you think, Pete, that it's more about like not passing a certain line? You know what I mean? Like what do you think?
I there's a certain line I won't cross, and that's I have a number in my head, a number of spanks that I'm willing to give. Um, Two is my limit, and that's 2 hard spanks at the bottom.
Okay,
Um,
but two spanks like for that situation for the whole day. You know what I mean? Like, or how do you
for
mean?
that situation, and like I
Okay,
said,
okay.
one good ass whooping lasts me a good long time. Um, but as far as for me, like I said earlier, it's a big difference between discipline and abuse. And I've heard so many stories from different men um, who were abused. Basically, like their dads would come home, beat the everlasting shit out of them. I had a friend whose dad literally picked him up, threw him to the ceiling. He hit the ground, and then he finished beating his ass. Like it
Whoa,
was bad.
whoa. So his dad literally picked him up and had enough strength because obviously
Yes,
either his dad was real strong or the kid was just too small at the time
he was.
that he threw him up in the ceiling like straight
Yes,
up superhero stuff.
yes. Like I think at the time I'm not sure what age he was, but he was real
Yeah,
young,
yeah.
and that experience stuck with him. That experience, like, of course, an ass whooping that bad, but it was literally at the point where it wasn't even discipline. It was just literally abuse, and I think we as adults can strongly see that um, the difference between discipline and abuse. A spanking is discipline. Um, some people may see it as abuse, and then that's your opinion. Um, but like I said, every child is different. So, but there is a very, very set line between what discipline and abuse is. And like I said, 2 spanks, good enough for me. Um, I have had to spank my daughter before. Uh, she was there was one time where she was throwing a super temper tantrum, and I had to spank her bottom, and it wasn't fun for me. I hated it, but I knew that I had to spank her, and she knew, hey, Dad's serious when he says, hey, I'm gonna spank you if you don't stop.
Um, that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because you're in a different, unique perspective than I am because I have two girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask you, do you feel like it's easier to spank boys than girls, or do you think it's about the same? Because, like I said, I only have two girls, and when I spank one, it pretty much feels like I'm spanking the other one. You know what I mean? So it's the
Yeah,
same thing
yeah.
for me. Now,
So
I've seen people who personally myself seen them that they spank the boys much harder than the girls, and the boy might have done something less than the girl, but because the girl, it's a girl, they hit her less.
mhm. I will admit I don't hit my daughter as much as I do my son, but my son is much more hard headed, and he's 11 years old right now. So, and she's 8. Um, so he's starting that preteen, hard headed, uh, talking back phase, and I don't spank him as much as I used to. Actually, I've actually held back from that. Um, I try to have a conversation with him beforehand, and Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to take away his iPad, to revoke his privileges to use the computer, whatever, all that stuff. That usually works out, but oftentimes I do find myself having to spank him if all those resources are used up. So it sucks. I mean, it's there's a very big difference between spanking a boy and spanking a girl. For me personally, it breaks my heart when I have to spank my daughter, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, yeah, someone's bringing up a good point. We raise our daughters but love our sons. And that's very true. That's very true in the Hispanic community. Another thing that I wanted to mention is when you spank your kid and they have a face of confusion, in my opinion, I feel bad. Like, I was one time I spanked my daughter, and for some reason, even though I felt like I got my message across as in like what she did wrong, she still kind of gave me like a confused face, and that kind of, my heart kind of broke there, because I was like, man, did I, like, I started questioning myself, you know what I mean? I was like, did I just spank my child for no reason? Like, because like she clearly did something wrong. I clearly communicated with her of what she did wrong, but yet she still had this face of confusion. So that kind of threw me off. You know what I mean? I don't know if this ever happened to you.
It has, and that's why that's one of the reasons why I only do the two, and I'm done. It's usually quick, and then I can get to talking to them once they're at least finished crying if they're crying. And then I'm able to get my point across and actually explain to them, hey, this is what you did wrong. This is why I had to spank you. I've already tried everything else. You weren't listening. And, I break it down for them. I actually sit down and talk with them and give them an explanation. Versus, what I got as a kid, I never got an explanation. I got an ass beating and go to your room. Okay. And that was it.
Yeah, it was more questions than answers. Another thing that I want to touch upon, Pete, is what age, and I want to extend this to everybody that's listening, what age do you guys in general think that is like the cutoff point of you can't spank your kid? What do you think is the age? In my opinion, I think 14 years old is the final year that you can spank your kid. Granted, I haven't gone to that phase yet, but I feel like 14 is like the cutoff point. What do you think is your cutoff point, Pete?
For me personally, that's the problem, because I know when I hit puberty, I was basically freaking 5'10", 5'11" at 13 years old. So I know my son's going to be tall, and that's going to be the hard part. Looking at my son, literally eye level to me, and basically having to be like, okay, it's going to be a chore getting you down to spank you. And it's not going to be easy.
Wait, Pete. So what you're telling me is you spank your kids like you see them like in the old school movies where like, you got that knee and then they're bending over and you spank them?
No. So what I do is I basically tell them, hey, you fucked up. I'm going to spank you. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. And usually they choose the easy way. Hard way, I basically chase them down and I have to spank them. Easy way is, hey, we just do this now. Bend over the bed, and I just spank you real quick. And usually they usually do the easy way. They don't like doing the hard way where I have to chase them down and spank them, which I don't like either.
Well, each their own, Pete, but that seems a little weird to me.
Hey, I'm just saying, man. Like,
no, but yeah, I understand.
You have those parents. Remember those old school parents who were like, it's like if you run or if you try to cover up, it's gonna be twice as worse. I'm gonna hit you twice as much.
Oh yeah.
I'm basically just like, look, we can do this the easy way or do it the hard way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spank the same amount too, but either way, it's gonna happen. You can run, or you can just take it now, and that's it. So that's my viewpoint towards it. I'm not one of those dads who, if you resist, I'm gonna spank you twice as much. No, I'm not gonna do that. That's just not me.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, um, I
Now
mean,
another.
well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. Well, let me ask you. Well, let's finish the subject real quick. So, as far as age, my daughter, I would really, my cutoff point would probably be, I would say personally, once my kids start hitting puberty, that's going to be my cutoff point. Uh, that's going to literally be my cutoff point. Once they start hitting puberty, um,
So when your son starts getting that raspy voice, and your daughter starts going,
yeah,
through that transition of
yeah,
the month thing, that's
yeah,
when you're gonna be like, you know what, this is my cutoff point.
yeah, that's going to be my cutoff point personally. It's not really an age. It's just more of a, hey, your body's going through changes, and I'm going to have to figure out a new way to discipline you rather than spanking you. So, so yeah.
Someone mentioned, and this is funny because my grandma used to do this. For those of you that are listening for the first time, and in episode 0, I mentioned that my grandma had excellent aim with no matter what she would grab, and she would do this. So once someone said right here, don't have to chase them down, just act like it's no biggie. Wait for the time when he or she won't expect it, then spank them. And that's exactly what my grandma would do. If she wouldn't throw something, she would play like, "Oh, I'm too tired to do it," right? And then I'll eventually come down from where you were, or you're from your hidey hole or whatever. And I remember I would catch that hand out of nowhere, like if like a ninja coming out of nowhere, just bam! And, oh my god, I thought it was over, but nope, she was biding her time, and. And that's interesting because I've seen people do that. I personally myself, I don't do that, but I have seen people do that where they wait. They're like, I'm not gonna chase my kid. I'm not gonna go act a fool or whatever. And each, like I said, each their own. Everybody does their own thing. We're not here to judge, but that's an interesting one, and that's something that I think it's effective just by seeing it. I personally never done it, but I think that's effective.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the child. It also depends on your parenting style. Grandparents were old school. They were like, I'm not going to chase you down. I'm going to wait for you to let your guard down, and I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you when you least suspect it. And hands down, it worked. They would get you eventually. But for me, it's just like, look, I just want to get this over with. So either way, I'm going to get you. And well, the question I was going to ask earlier is, who disciplined you? Who disciplined? Who in your family disciplined you? Was it your dad? Was it your mom?
Okay, so one thing that so I can explain and answer that question. My parents were migrant workers, so basically there was a time where when they would go to work, they would go to a different state than normal, and when they would go to that state, we would spend summers at my grandma's in Mexico, and so that's why I talk about my grandma a pretty good amount with discipline, because for the longest time she was basically like my third parent. You know what I mean? My grandpa was like just a real chill dude. It was rare that he would get mad, so that's why it was like mostly my grandma that would do the spanking and stuff. So if I had to say like who disciplined me, it would have to be the combination of my grandma from my dad's side, my dad, and then my mom. But if I had to like do it in order, it would be my dad, my grandma, and then my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And everybody, and each one of them had different styles. Like I said, my grandma would do the old ninja, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna be patient, and I'm gonna go ahead and smack you when I catch you off guard, And my dad was more like with how one of our listeners is saying that discipline is done there, so the kid can understand what he did wrong there. But what my dad struggled with was communication with the punishment. How you were saying that, you'll get a beating and then you go to your room and then it's kind of like, oh, okay, like somewhat I know what I did wrong, but I don't get the full picture. And that's pretty much was like my dad. That was his style, go ahead and hit first, ask questions later, or don't even ask questions at all after, and and then that was pretty much it. My mom was more like, I wouldn't say gentle, but more like, if you had to like don't waste a certain amount of energy, she wouldn't do it. Like, if you were within reach, she would do it. If you were like already a little too far, you know what I mean? Sort of similar to my grandma, but more body using your energy wisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had different people discipline me, different styles of discipline. So I feel like it's about the same to me, in my opinion, because sure, all of them hit me differently, but at the end of the day, it was a spank and then very little communication.
Mm-hmm.
The most general, basic communication of, hey, you did something wrong, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like, you're just thinking, okay, I know I did something wrong. Now I got to figure out what exactly I did wrong. And then, when you're a kid, you just either your brain tries to block it, or you yourself have to go do something, or you just forget about it. So you really don't fully learn what you did wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know for me personally, in order, who disciplined me was my grandfather, my uncle, and then my grandmother. Really, the main two was my grandfather and my uncle. And my uncle and my grandfather had two very different styles. My grandfather would just immediately whoop my ass. My uncle, he would whoop me, but he would tell me why. And I appreciated that more. Even as a kid, getting my ass whooped. I appreciated that more because I didn't have to go to my room and think, what the hell did I do wrong? That to me was worse than the whooping. Like, I could take a whooping. I just couldn't handle sitting there and wondering, like, what the hell did I do wrong? Did he catch me shit, or like, what the hell? And it sucked, but yeah, I felt like the punishment was going to your room and not knowing what the hell you did wrong. That to me is what it was.
Yeah. So speaking of this, it reminds me of a sad story that I have with my daughter, and it broke my heart. So what happened was, my oldest daughter, right? My oldest one, she had done something pretty bad, because one of the things that we want to talk about as well later on, well, not this episode, but another episode, is potty training. And this is when she was going through the potty training, right? And she was on a roll, you know what I mean? Like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, like perfect, you know what I mean? Like maybe one slip up here or there, but that's fine, right? Everything was going fine. And all of a sudden, she just went through a certain phase where, like, she didn't even care where she was, that she would just straight up go potty on herself wherever she was. She could be laying down, go potty on yourself. You're literally standing in front of me, and she would just go. And you know what I mean? I was just like confused, because I'm like, where is this coming from? You were doing so well, and it's not like a small slip up, right? That she tried to, like, she ran to the restroom and she didn't make it. No, she would just literally just be there and just do her thing. And sometimes it would be number two. So you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty crazy. Wherever she was, she could be eating and she could be doing it. So one time, we had barely like washed the sheets or something for her bed. So we have the little comforter thingy. So if she pees, it doesn't go through the mattress and stuff like that, right? And then different layers of sheets, right? We had barely washed them because she had peed them the night before. So we had barely washed them. We put them up and everything, and then about close to sleepy time, she just went straight to the restroom there. And I got after her. And I told her, why are you doing this? I got so mad because I just was, I didn't know where it was coming from. I asked her, why are you doing this? How come you just can't try to go? Like, I would be less mad, very less mad, if you at least made an attempt to go to the restroom. But you're literally just there, like, just peeing on yourself. You're not even trying at all. So she's like, no, She's like, no, that I'm scared. And I'm like, scared of what? There's nothing to be scared of. She's like, oh no, like when sometimes kids lie, they start making up stuff.
Mhm.
That she was saying like that there's like a monster, I don't know what, and I was like, what? No, there's nothing there. And I got real mad, and she was just making lies upon lies. She was like trying to blame her sister and stuff, so I got mad, and I spanked her, right? And I spanked her, and I told her, you can't be doing this. You gotta try to go to the restroom. So she was there crying, and because I was getting after her with words, she was crying even more. So through the whole time, I was trying to like tell her as she was making her way to the restroom, taking off her clothes and going to the potty. She was bawling, and I was getting mad at her, and I told her stop crying. And this is what broke my heart, because when I told her to stop crying, she was just there crying and crying, and she was to a point where she was just like frustrated, and she was going like and I was just like, what's going on? She's like, you told me to stop crying, but the tears the tears are still coming out. And I felt bad because like she was just literally trying to force her tears not to come out. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you know what? No. And I was like, okay, you misunderstood me. And I don't know, just that moment, I guess with everything going on, it was just a mixed bag of emotions. And that broke my heart a little bit. I don't know if you've ever had a similar story where you've pretty much like said what you wanted to say, but that story rings a bell a lot with my daughter not understanding what I was trying to tell her.
Yeah. No, I haven't had this similar experience, thankfully. The only real thing for me, being an adult now, I appreciate. Sorry, I appreciate. How do I put this? I appreciate my style of discipline, and I appreciate that I actually talk to them, and and I understand why my family disciplined me the way that I did. I was bad. I was an only child, and I would go outside and I would throw things, and I just wouldn't listen. And I was a bad kid. I'll admit it. Looking back now, uh, looking looking back at it as an adult, I really see that I was not a good kid, and I really did need that discipline. I just wish that it had been in the style that he did, where he would give me an explanation on why he opened me, and I really absorbed that, and I did it with my own children. So now, like I said, whenever I whoop them, they get an explanation, and hope when they grow up, they'll appreciate it too.
Do you feel like if they didn't do that, you would still do it to your kids, as in like explain to them? Let's say they never explained it to you. Like they just every single time they spanked you, Pete, and you said to yourself, "I'm gonna learn this lesson as in like to when I have kids, I am gonna go ahead and explain. I'm not gonna be like."
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that my family did that I don't do. There's a lot of things like arguing in front of my kids. I try not to do that as much as I can. I mean, it happens, but we try to refrain from it as much as we can, just because we don't want that in front of our kids. My grandmother and my grandfather would fight all the time, all the time. It was literally like clockwork. Yeah, dude, like I didn't want that at all for my kids. I didn't want to fight in front of them. I didn't want to fight around them. I don't drink around my kids. My grandfather, when he got drunk, ooh, man. Very rarely, but once in a blue moon, if he did do it, tequila was his choice. It only happened maybe.
I think almost every Mexican drinks tequila.
Yeah.
At one point, it may not be their favorite, but they drink it.
Yeah, it's the car that gets you there the quickest.
I wanna do an episode, Pete, of of just parents talking about their choice of liquor based on the situation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be kid related, but I want to talk about that because
We can also have a discussion about. Do you
while
think it's
being
okay
drunk.
to be drinking at his birthday party?
Do you
Because
think it's a?
everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Quick question, y'all. What do y'all think? Is it okay to drink at a kid's birthday party? Have you ever
I,
done
I
it?
I would say no. No, I've never. I don't drink at kids' birthday parties. I don't even drink around my own kids. I don't drink and smoke around them. Uh, Once they're gone, then yeah, I drink and smoke as much as I want. But when they're here, don't touch it.
Mm, yeah.
So it's
Um,
just trying to be a good parent around my kids. So,
one
but
there's
yeah.
one thing that I want to talk about as well, Pete. On the topic of discipline is what is your opinion on step parents spanking the
Mm.
child? You know, let's say for example, you were with someone, right? Let's say you were
I
with someone,
actually have
and
personal experience.
no, no, I know, but let's say for example, you had no kids,
Mm-hmm.
and that other person that you're with has kids. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
two. One of them is 7, and the other one is 5. Right? How long do you think that you have to be with that person for you to feel either comfortable, or do you think in general for it to be okay to spank the kid? You
So
being as
for
a
me,
step parent.
yeah, for me personally, if I was a step parent, being the person that I am now, uh, I would have that conversation with my significant other beforehand and actually talk to them and see when they're okay with it. Because, that's a part of the growing experience into a relationship. Like, hey, um, you're going to let down your guard to actually let me talk to your child, who's essentially becoming my child, and you're you're basically going to allow me to do these things when you're ready. And that would be my retrospect on it, because I would want her to feel comfortable with allowing me to discipline the child when she's comfortable, because you don't mess with you don't mess with her cub. Um, Basically, especially if she's a single mother, that's that's a lot harder.
Okay, so
But
so what you're saying is it's not about how many years you've been with that person. It's about if that person feels comfortable with you spanking,
yes,
disciplining their kids.
yes. So it'll eventually get to that point, because if I'm in a relationship for a long time and I plan to spend the rest of my life with this person, and it really gets to that point, then eventually that conversation is going to come up multiple times. Where, hey, do you want me to discipline him? Do you want me to have a talk with him? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? When do you want me to discipline him? Because eventually, if he sees me as a father, eventually I'm going to have to discipline him. Especially, with young boys. It's really, I honestly believe that boys do need discipline. And that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Uh. That's interesting, and also that's I agree with mostly everything you're saying because it makes sense. You know what I mean? Just makes sense just based on the single parent, whether it's a male or a female. It's still a single parent. You know, you got to respect the struggle, and you
Well,
coming in here.
there's different situations. There's also,
Yeah.
is she a single mom? Is the father still in the picture? Is he in and out? Is he an only child? Do you have multiple kids? Two boys? Is it a boy and a girl? There's different situations for different reactions and different, um, you know, having a different conversation about it. Uh, but as I was saying earlier, I actually have personal experience with this, because my baby mama, she's married. She's been married for 4 or 5 years now, and basically he's their stepdad. And at first, I was apprehensive about it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want to hear about him trying to discipline my kids, because I just wasn't for it. Now, looking back on it, uh, I understand. If you're going to be in it for the long haul, I understand. Kids are living with you, and eventually someone's going to have to discipline them. And their mom, unfortunately, um, she can spank them, but my son will not listen to her. My eldest. It's like getting hit by a bag of marshmallows. Honestly, um,
A bag of marshmallows.
it's just to the point where like the spankings don't even work on him from his mom.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that he spanked him, but I have heard that he's had talks with him, and he's tried to tell him like, look, dude, you need to quit the shit. Like, you're being a smartass, you're talking back, and I need you to stop. Stuff like that. And I respect it. I understand. It took me a long time to get there, but I've come to learn from my previous mistakes and understand that um, eventually that talk has to happen. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm very prideful, and that's one of my biggest downfalls. Uh, but as far as step parents, it just depends on the situation, and as far as who's still in the picture, who's not in the picture, and what can come of it. You know, like, I don't want you disciplining my kid. First month you're in a relationship, and then 6 months from now you're gone.
Yeah, yeah. 100%, I agree on that. Yeah, step parents have put in the work, been there for years. I feel like they're entitled. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're entitled. Now,
Yes.
obviously, you still got to talk to the biological father. Whether it's a female or a male. But yeah, if you've put in the work as a step parent, you've earned some rights. God damn it! You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you. Um, and as far as my viewpoint, like I said, I'm the other guy. I'm the biological father, and honestly, it took me a long point to get to this. It's taken almost 4 or 5 years to get to this point. And um, honestly, I should have been more open to it early on. But honestly, I didn't know if this guy was going to stick around.
Yeah.
You're always apprehensive.
Well, yeah. No one really knows. Like, yeah. And that'd be weird asking your baby mama, "Hey, so how's it going?" That'd be weird. That'd be weird.
It would be kind of weird.
I'm barely noticing. I do look like an '80s villain right now, Pete. You were right. Me and Pete were talking about this before going live, and he was like, "Dude, you look like an '80s villain." And I do look like a very retired '80s villain.
Right. My
So
golden years behind me. Wait, no, golden years is when you're older. My bad. My
yeah.
my good years. But yeah, that's a good segue into our next segment. We're talking about communication. Um, as far as the what we first wanted to go over was growing as adults to communicate better.
Yeah.
Like I was saying
Yeah.
earlier, it took me a long time to get to this point to honestly be okay with him disciplining my kids. I got 3 kids. That's a lot of kids to handle. On top of that, getting the communication between me and my baby mama, it took a long time to get there. It went through, because I'm a young father. I had my first son was at 18. Got a girl pregnant at 17, and we didn't work out. We drifted apart, and we were always constantly fighting. We were always constantly at each other's throats, and it really became to where we couldn't communicate. Our son was 1 year old, and we just could not communicate. And it literally got to the point where I put myself on child support, and for my first son, and then my daughter was born, and I had to put myself on child support for my daughter as well. And it wasn't until years had gone by, and this was after my daughter was born, that we finally reconciled, and we were able to really come to a common ground. And she understood that, hey, I understand that you're not going anywhere. That's why you did all these things, and you fought for your kids, and you did these things. And we just understood. We just communicated, and it really grew from there. And but it took years. It honestly took time and unfortunately perseverance through all those bad times.
Since being on both sides of the coin, Pete, there, of being okay with your baby mama as far as communication wise, and not being okay with your baby mama as communication wise, do you think it affects your children? As in, like, as in like
Yes.
for them to understand the better concept of what a family is, regardless if you guys are separated or not.
Yes. I do think it comes into a big effect. Just because. Um, okay, sorry. I'm going to dive deep a little bit in here.
Go for
So,
it. Go for it.
my the son, um, he was having abandonment issues. Like I said last podcast, he was living at my his grandmother's house, which is her mom's house, and he was doing this thing where he was hiding in the closet, and we couldn't figure out why. You know, I was picking
But
up every week,
but he randomly he would go to the closet.
go into the closet and just stand there. He wouldn't sit down; he would just stand there. And his grandmother had to go and find him, see what was going on. He was like probably like a year and a few months old, and come to find out, he was having abandonment issues. And of course, I was still there, and she was still getting her life in order, and she was still trying to figure things out. And you know, we that was one of the few times in those early years that we came together and really tried to figure out how can we help our son? Like, what are we doing wrong? And he really took that in order to show us, hey, we're being selfish and we're being stupid. Uh, we need to stop. Um, and yeah, like I can honestly say that not having communication um, really affected our kids. Even our daughter, like early on when I was having to pick her up, and I finally got the rights to basically pick her up with my son. She would cry all day, nonstop, because she didn't know who I was. I had to pick her up at 2 years old, and
I
it
bet that broke your heart, dude.
it did. It did. It really did. But once I had a talk with her, and I understood, hey, she doesn't know who you are, and and she really let me understand, like, hey, you're gonna have to build that relationship with her. And part of me was still mad. Part of me was still mad that I didn't get that opportunity for 2 years. But at the same time, I couldn't hold on to that anger because that was stopping me from establishing that relationship with my daughter. And I just tucked my chin down and I drove through it. I had to, and it was hard, dude. It was really hard. She was crying all day. We were literally playing Frozen like 20 times a day. It was the only thing that calmed her down. Uh, I would only get to keep her for a few hours a day first, and then once she started warming up to me, we got to the point where she could spend the night, and yeah, like the communication between me and her mom is what actually really helped me. Finding out her favorite movie, finding out how to calm her down, how finding out to actually build that relationship. Uh, it was tough, man. It was really really tough. But now, like I try to teach my kids, because I've done research and I've tried to see, like, how can I act better in front of my kids for their mother and for their relationship with their mother, because like I don't have a good relationship with my mom. I just don't. Um, there's a lot of stuff that happened that just it's just not a good relationship, and I'll dive deeper into that in for future episodes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted them to love their mom. I wanted them to understand, hey, your mom brought you into this world and she loves you, and she only wants what's best for you. And so, like now, what I'll do is pick up the kids on Sundays, Sunday morning. I'll buy her coffee. I'll give it to her, and I'll tell her good morning. Uh, I'll thank her for anything that she does, even if the kids aren't around. I'll just thank her. Um, Stuff like that. Just little things like that.
Yeah, little things here and there. Um, One of the things that I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like it's okay as a parent to admit, whether you admit it to, in front of your kids, or you eventually tell them later that you were wrong, whether you did something? Like I said, when I had had that incident with my daughter, I was pretty much told, I pretty much told her, I was wrong. You don't have to make your tears stop crying. Like, stop
Yeah.
coming out. Like, it's okay to cry. And
With my kids, I like to admit that I'm wrong because I don't want them to be like me. I was hard headed for a long time. Like I said, I'm guilty of being prideful. I used to be the way where I would not admit that I was at all. You could literally show me facts right in front of me. You could literally tell me what I did wrong and why, and I still would not admit that I was wrong. But
So you wouldn't care. You'd be like, yeah, I know I'm wrong, but I'm not gonna acknowledge it. You're just gonna push through.
I basically had that mindset of I'm right, you're wrong, and it took me a long time, and it took a friend of mine to basically call me out on it and basically tell me, hey, um, you got a lot of growing to do. You're very prideful, and you need to let that go. I don't know where that came from, but you need to let that go. That's going to be your downfall. And sure enough, I had to learn how to let it go. I had to learn how to admit that I was wrong. I had to let things go. I really try to instill that into my kids. Like I try to admit when I'm wrong in front of them and show them, hey, I am wrong. And I'm hoping that they learn that as well, that they're able to internalize that and see, hey, you know, it's okay to admit when you're wrong. It's okay. As long as you're learning, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading. I was reading one of the comments as you were talking about that it's true that sometimes you do have to admit that you're wrong,
It's a
and
very big thing.
and I feel like this is pretty much um, is related to why we created the podcast, because there's a lot of guys out there that won't willingly admit, especially not in front of like their friends or their homies or whatever you want to call them, that they did something that was like on their emotional side. You know what I mean? And you know what someone that's listening right now is pretty much saying that they were wrong and they admitted it to the daughter, and they still feel like they can't totally be comfortably vulnerable like that all the time, but they are making progress in the right direction, you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's for some people it's real hard. For some people it's real hard. And like I was saying, if we would have been talking to you what 10 years ago, like 5 years ago, you probably would have not been able to talk about this, or you would have probably had a different view of this same subject. So
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot.
It really comes back to just growing. I mean, you really have to grow into these things. Like I said, it took me years to get to this point. And like you said, if you had talked to me 10 years ago, I'd be the same person that I am today. It took me going through those horrible things and all those hard.
The whole time, this whole episode. Nah, I ain't wrong. No, that's the whole episode. But Pete, nah, you don't hear me. I'm not wrong.
But yeah,
Speaking of,
I know.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So, uh, just one of the things that I wanted to say, like, I know my growth, even if the person that I'm growing for doesn't see it, or even the person that I'm growing because of doesn't see it. I'm still trying to become a better person, and I'm hoping eventually that they see that I am trying to be better. You know, that I am trying to be the best father, the best man, the best thing, the best person that I can be. And the person I'm doing that for is for my kids. You know, and it's because of good people around me that told me stop me, and literally told me, hey, you need to stop and really think about what you're really doing, because what you're doing is toxic and what you're doing is not okay, and you're passing that down. You're passing that down to your kids, and you're just repeating the cycle. Even if that's what you were raised in, even if that's what you learned as a child, then going into adulthood, you're passing that down, and it's a very hard thing to break.
With one of the if you remember, Pete, one of the studies that we read, uh, they found that it was a very short study, because obviously you can't be going around and documenting this, because not everybody is willing to volunteer, whether being on the subject of the study was that they found that spanking your kids would sometimes be linked, doing it wrong. So let me clarify: doing it wrong, spanking your kids, doing it wrong, it was sometimes linked to success in life as an adult. And that, to me, when I was reading that kind of makes sense, and it goes with the not only with the subject of discipline, but also with the communication, because how we were talking about earlier, if you just spank your kid and you don't go ahead and clarify exactly what they did wrong, you don't talk to them to like the heart-to-heart conversation, they won't know, and they're just probably gonna resent you for it. You know what I mean? In the future, they're probably just either gonna hate you, or they're just gonna be like, you know what? No, like this is stupid, right? And another thing that they found in the studies is that when you spank your kid and you do it the wrong way, you are teaching your kid that physical abuse is what can get you what you want. And that one was interesting to me because, once again, it goes with communication. If you teach your kids wrong, where you just go ahead and smack them around, you know what I mean? That's pretty much how bullies are created in a way. Yeah. That oh man, it's very crazy that a couple of steps after spanking your kid can mean the difference between totally messed up and totally right. You know what I mean? As far as for them to learn and grow and actually understand the subject.
Yeah, it's it's a difficult thing. I mean, again, it just comes back to every child's different. But then again, you have to think about the consequences of you spanking your child wrong. I mean, you have to be in control. You have to be in control of your emotions, and you have to be in control of the situation and really understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. Um, Especially, when children are younger. Um, and it all goes back to um, just breaking that generational curse of passing down all the negative stuff and bad things that you're doing or that was done upon you onto your kids. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's for me personally, bottling up my emotions has been something that I've had to battle with for a long time, for a very long time. Like I'm still fighting it, and I catch my son doing it. I catch my son just holding it all in when he's frustrated, and doesn't let it out until much later on. And it's crazy, man. It's you start really seeing the path of that generational curse.
Yeah, and yeah, I was reading one of the comments, and it's true that when I don't know if you remember this, but I remember my parents would say this, that when a little boy would hit another girl in the playground or wherever they were, right, that means that little boy liked her, so he was pretty much showing physical abuse, like, hey, you're mine.
Damn,
like, that's a little.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I only got maybe like once or twice, and I never did it, but I would ask why that would happen, and it was the weirdest thing. I would see other little boys hitting a girl, and I'd be like, "Why are they doing that? I don't get it." And then I would ask somebody in my family, like, "Hey, why are they doing that?" Oh, that just means they like them. It's like, wait, what? That's a sign of liking someone? Oh, okay. Weird way to show it, but okay. But yeah, it's a
Yeah,
weird thing.
it's a weird thing. Do you think that by talking about communication with your kid, it will eventually lead them to success? Because, like I said, one of the research showed that it was spanking, but I'm talking about just straight up communication with your children. Do you think you would breed success? Do you think you would pretty much make them understand that knowledge or whatever type of career that they're trying to pursue requires good discipline in general.
I think it also requires. I think that's one step. Yes, that is one key thing that they need is communication, but also understanding that that it takes hard work. Seeing their parents basically put the work into it. I think that's also a key factor into it because kids can have communication all day, but if you don't instill into them taking those steps to move forward in life, then all they have is communication, and that's my honest opinion. I mean, I feel like it takes multiple steps to raise a decent human being. It's not just one thing. It's also, from my personal experience, I've always wanted my kids to be better than me. I don't want my kids to be like me, especially my son, my oldest. I don't want him to be like me. Like I know on the inside, I'm not okay, and the things that I do to cope with certain things is not okay, and I'm trying to work on that, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't pass that on. And like I said earlier, I catch my son bottling stuff up, and it breaks my heart. It honestly breaks my heart seeing those things, and it's
Yeah,
yeah.
talking yeah, that's one of the big things that I try to watch for with my kids too, trying to catch that sense of if they're trying to bottle up something inside. You know what I mean? That's I don't think that's good in general at all. And I feel like some parents or they don't see the signs. You know, some parents don't want to see the signs. Some parents don't see the signs. And do you feel like that has to do with the way you were raised as communication wise? You know what I mean? Because like like I said, my punishment with the people that I had the most contact with weren't the most communicative persons. But now as you know, as an adult and having kids, I feel like I've just had to read up on all this stuff and pretty much learn it at a later age.
Yeah. Um, I know for me, um, being an only child, I spent a lot of time alone. And I spent a lot of time um, reflecting on things and learning. Um, I don't know. It was weird. Like I would sit in my room alone and just think about certain things and about man. I would say about 11 to 12 years old. I really started figuring out how my family really works and what was really going on between my grandmother and my father and my mother and my uncle raising me and doing all these things and really seeing that um, I didn't want to make the same mistakes as them
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
learning from their strengths, but also learning from their weaknesses. And I don't know, it was weird. At a young age, I could see that. And I honestly think it's because I was an only child. Because I just had so much time just sitting there by myself that I would look at these situations and see that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to fight in front of my kids, if I ever had kids at that time. Um, and I didn't want to make the same mistakes, uh, especially hitting my kids and not giving them an explanation, different stuff like that. Like even early on, I knew I didn't want to do that.
Do you breaking off the subject a little bit because as I'm reading the comments, do you feel like if someone disciplines, let's say for example, let me set up the scenario, Pete. You're at the mall, right? You're at the mall. You're by yourself, right? And you're at the food court. You're at the food court, and you see some parents there, and they start disciplining their kid, and you, based on your moral values, your education that you have with your kids and stuff, do you think if that parent steps out of line, do you think you would say something, or do you think you'd be like, well, each their own, because I don't know the situation?
It okay. So if this situation, let's just say, okay, So let me ask into the situation. Is the kid throwing the tantrum? Is he throwing things?
Okay. The kid is crying and throwing a tantrum, but it's not throwing things. It's not like on the floor, like acting like if it has a seizure or anything like that. No, not that hardcore. It's throwing a tantrum, like stomping their feet and getting mad. But it's not. It is a tantrum, but it's not as bad as a tantrum can be.
Okay.
And you just see the parents go ham on the kid, like three good hits, and they tell him, "Hey, you better calm down. If not, you're gonna get 3 good hits more." And you hear those hits, and you hear them pop like you're trying to hit a home run, like just hear it pop.
With my mind, unfortunately, I would take the chance to, especially if I'm with my kids, I would stop, look, and whatever I'm looking at, I know my kids are going to look at, they're going to look and see this kid's getting their ass whooped. For one, to remind them, hey, I don't beat you as bad as that. 2, I would stare at her and basically look at her and be like, give her the eye. Basically be like, look, I see what you're doing. I understand you're disciplining your child, but this is not the fucking place. Like, if you want to discipline your kid, do that at home.
There's a time and place for everything.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah,
now, I don't know the story about what happened. Maybe the child was being bad multiple times today. Maybe he was throwing a fit just to throw a fit. I don't know, but again, there is a time and place for everything. Especially especially in the world that we live in. Social media. Anybody can whip out a phone and start recording you beating your kid's ass. Also the fact that respectfully, do that at home. Do that at home. If you're going to discipline your child, do it at home.
Yeah.
Now, if it's like you're telling your kid, no, I'm not going to buy you some candy at the store. I already told you no, and they start throwing a fit. I will literally let them keep throwing a fit. I'll put them back in the car or whatever, and then they can throw a fit all they want. I don't care. You can throw a fit all you want. If it's a real bad one, I will stop shopping. I will take them, back into the car, take them all the way back home, and then, leave them at home, and then come back and go grocery shopping.
Oh, okay. I'm reading one of the comments, and that's very true. I feel like I would do this, where I would just like pull my kid. I'll answer the same question that I asked you right now, but I feel like if my kid pulled such a big tantrum like that, I would try my best to stop it there. And if they don't want to calm down, whatever, I will take them either to the restroom or like somewhere private, and then I will go ahead and handle my business, because I've seen parents do that before, and everybody has their own way of dealing when they're in the restroom or whenever they go private. But excuse me, I feel like it works most of the time, especially removing the kid from where they're at. Sometimes just enough will like calm them down. It's like if they just snap, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially if they're throwing a tantrum for something that they want. I can understand that. But like I said, me personally, I would just get out of that situation and then take them back home. Or if they want to throw a tantrum, fine. You can throw a tantrum. We can handle this at home. There's a time and a place for everything. But yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't think about restrooms. I have seen that before too, where kids are throwing tantrums and they take them into the family restroom, especially like at malls. They have a men's room.
Oh yeah, the big ones where you can fit like 5 people in there. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the popular ones for taking bad kids into. So yeah.
Pete, now let's go ahead and talk about going back to the subject of discipline. Let me go ahead and I'm jumping the gun here. Let me go ahead and answer that question. If I would see the same thing, like how I said, it was just you by yourself, and you're in the food court, you're looking at what you want, sushi, Italian, whatever the heck you want, and you see the parents, and they're going ham on that kid. I think I would do the same thing as like give them the stink eye, because I don't know the situation, and now with like social media, like everybody has a decent camera now. It's rare that you find like a potato camera nowadays, but everybody has a decent camera, so you know what I mean? Like they could spin it the wrong way, like, oh, the parent was just disciplining their kid and this guy just came out of nowhere and started a fight, who is he? Where does he work? You know, they start blasting up your work. You know, your work's got you there like, yo, what the heck? And then he's like, you're fired. That was up?
You know, you get canceled.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about, Pete. Open hand, closed hand. What's your method for spanking? What do you think is a no nos? What do you think is a no nos? You know, like belts, sandals, a random object. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm an open hand kind of guy. I don't do close hand or backhand. I think that's too far, in my personal opinion. Especially, I know I have a heavy hand. I know I do. I can hit pretty hard. With an open hand, I can control it. You know, I'm in control of the situation. I can hit them. You know, as controlled as I can. I have disciplined my kids before with a belt. I didn't like it. I don't ever want to do that again because yeah, it was
Yeah,
it's not for
yeah, I've never done that. I've never done the belt. I feel weird.
yeah, no, it's not for me. It just felt like it felt like it was too much. You know, if I can't make my point across with an open hand, especially being as heavy-handed as I am, um, I don't think whooping your ass is going to be the solution. Uh, I'm not going to grab an object and beat you with it. That's just not. I tried it, don't like it. I'm just going to hit you open-handed.
So your style is just open hand and that's it. No belt, no. Yeah, I've seen some. The what?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, and someone commented no hitting in the stomach or back. Yeah, definitely no hitting in the stomach or the back.
That would be weird, man.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen some. Yeah, I've seen an ass whooping where it like, especially with a belt. You know, sometimes you can't control it and it swings out of control, and it kind of wraps around and hits him in the stomach or something. I've seen that happen before.
Yeah, I feel like when you spank a kid with a belt, each their own, but I feel like it's borderline like a whip.
Depends on the belt too. I mean,
you know, we got the belts with the with the metal stuff on them and stuff. Yeah. Is it real leather? Is it fake leather? Is it hard? Is it flexible? Yep.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's just not for me. I don't like using belt. It's just too much for me. It literally feels like, for me personally, it literally feels like borderline abuse, and I don't like it. It's just not okay with me. It doesn't sit well with me, and yeah, I just rather open spank my kids.
Yeah, open-handed. I feel like that's like the universal sign of it's okay. You know, that's. I think
well, especially with parents that do spank. I feel like, you know, level one is open-handed, and that's the acceptable form of spanking. You know, I feel like there's tiers to it, but yes, open-handed is probably like the most acceptable way of spanking, in my personal opinion.
Now this one, it's a bit of a stretch on communication, but what would you do, Pete, or what you would have done if your kid, your son would have come out gay? Like, you know, he tells you, "Hey, Dad," you know what I mean? Like he.
So I mean, we touched on this a little bit on episode 0, and we can dive into it now.
Yeah.
So for me personally, if either one of my sons or my daughter came out to me as gay, I'd be okay with it. I would be okay with them, you know, coming out to me that way. I would hope that I would see the signs before they tell me, so that way, so I could be like, yeah, I know, I've seen the signs, and you know, I've just been waiting for you to tell me. If I didn't see the signs and they just come out to me, I'd be accepting of it, you know, and if it does turn out to be a phase, then so be it. if they don't, and that's who they really are, then so be it. They're if you're gay, you're gay. Can't. I'm not going to sit here and change you. I'm not going to sit here and make you be something that you're not. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be the same thing with my kids. I'm not gonna force them to be something that they don't want to be. There's still a lot of parents out there, like I said, each their own, but I know there's a lot of parents out there that it's like a big no as soon as they start, or you know what I mean, like, or they start doing very small to maybe entry level stuff of being gay, whether it's male, female, the child, that they would try to correct them right away. Oh no, you can't be doing that, or yeah, you can't go with this person, or you can't hang out with this group or whatnot. And yeah, I would totally be open. I would totally be open to my kids being gay. It doesn't. I wouldn't. It would not faze me at all.
Yeah,
I feel like because the way that I am myself, as in like I'm pretty shy and kind of nervous in certain situations, I feel like my kids would probably be more scared or more shy trying to tell me, even though they little would they know that I'll be like, yeah, okay, let's talk about this. How do you feel and stuff, and that's it.
I would hope that I would instill to my kids that it's okay to come to me with these things, even if it's just a regular situation, like, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about asking this guy out, and I'm really nervous, and I don't know what to say, stuff like that, or I'm thinking about asking this girl out, and she's super popular, and I don't know what to say, stuff like that. I would hope that it would be on the same level as that they would tell me these things, and I would never want them to be scared to tell me those things, because I've had friends who have gone through that experience where their parent basically disowns them, and unfortunately, it's usually their father, especially with guys. Their dads, hey, Dad, I'm gay. Completely disowns them. I got a friend who hasn't talked to his dad in like 12, 13 years.
Well, 12, 13 years? That's a long time.
He came out right after high school. Right after high school, and completely disowned him. It was a Hispanic household, and the father just did not take to it.
And
he still talks to his mom, but he does not talk to his father at all.
That makes sense, because most kids that come out are around the age of high school age. You know what I mean? 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and some of them bite their tongue all the way to graduation. So if something like this would happen, how you saying that the dad basically disowned this friend that you have, they can be like, okay, I'm already, an adult, 18, I already got my high school diploma, I can leave, I can go somewhere, and I don't have to suffer the wrath of my dad every single day until I graduate. Yeah.
It's both smart, but at the same time, it sucks, because
it's sad. It's sad, really.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I really don't wish it upon him. It sucks, but his story is unfortunately what inspired me to be open to my kids being gay, and if they came out that way, then I'd be okay with it, because I don't want to give them that heartbreak, because there have been times where we're sitting around drinking and he's talking about it, and you can tell that it's a heavy weight on his heart. You can tell that his heart is still broken to this day about that, because he loves his dad and he wishes that his dad could be a part of his life. It's not there. It's just something that his dad just can't get over.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Everybody's different, but man, missing out a year out of my daughter's life would freaking kill me. So it's man, it's crazy how far some people would go based on what they believe, and just their anger, or not them wanting to learn or to understand.
Yeah, it's It's unfortunately something that's very prevalent in our generation, and especially in the generation before. Our grandparents' lifetime as well. Um, I know, I was taught early on, like, hey, like, don't be gay. Stop being like that. Don't be a girl about that. Things like that. And I didn't think anything of it. I was a kid. I didn't know any better. Now looking back at it as an adult, I'm like, pretty sure they were just trying to make sure, you know, gay.
Would you,
And,
Pete? Would you ever take your kid to one of those shows? You like, the ones that Dr. Phil, or the one
no.
that. What do you mean? No, why not?
Okay. So for one, I would not want my family stuff to be out there on television. Like Maury and Dr. Phil and Oprah. And fuck no. I would hope that I could mend things with my kids at home versus having to go on a fucking talk show. Like I don't understand that. Like how does it get to the point where you have to go on live television to present your problems in front of the world for you to find a solution? Like I understand some kids are bad. Some kids are really bad.
Yeah,
And someone says catch a girl.
like
So
did you ever watch that show called Scared Straight, the one that would take him to the prisons?
Oh man, there's
Did you ever
funny.
watch that show?
It's funny. I'm not gonna lie, that show it's funny as hell.
Would you let your kid go to one of those places?
Yeah. My kid,
Yeah.
if he was getting into trouble and doing things that he wasn't supposed to, uh, and running with the wrong kind of people, yes, I would be open to it. But only if he was getting into trouble. As he is now,
okay.
if he just didn't say that, yes. But if he was running with the wrong crowds and doing stuff like tagging up walls or some the devil's lettuce or anything like that, and which is just a joke. Like I'm okay with smoking weed, but not for kids. As far as
I was about to be like,
just,
damn kid, you letting your no.
I'm completely okay with marijuana. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, like if he was doing something wrong, if he was doing something that he wasn't supposed to, and running with the wrong people, or he's just going down the wrong path, especially crime wise, then yeah, I would be okay with that. But I wouldn't be okay with like taking him onto like Dr. Phil and be like, oh, he doesn't listen to me. No. No.
Yeah, and someone just said something actually very, very true, that they said, I think when I was younger I believed in bad kids, but now I feel like really bad kids don't get the love or attention they deserve. I mean, they need it, or acting out because they want to be loved or they want to be recognized at home. And that's I feel like that's true, because like when I'm seeing these shows like either the Dr. Phil or sometimes it wouldn't even come out of Maury, but or the Scared Straight shows, most of them they would go in and like within the first 30 minutes they would already be scared, and then they appreciated the parents even more, and then the parents are kind of like, okay, you're in a tough spot, so let me pay attention more to you. And that's pretty much what the kid wanted in the first place, just to be loved, just to be cared, just to be understood. And I feel like the reason that I was trying to ask you that question is because I see so many of these people take them to the show, and once again, we're not trying to pass judgment here, but I don't feel like I would be able to take my kids to any of these shows. Because if it gets to that point, I would feel bad, or I feel like I didn't do my job right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it ever got to that point, it's one thing to be like, hey, maybe we should go to therapy, or maybe we should try this, maybe we should try that. But to go into live television, like, I would honestly feel like I failed completely as a parent at that point if somebody told me that. Like, I would be more open to the idea of going to therapy with my kid, talking to my kid, actually doing these things with my kid. Like actually trying to fix things at home rather than letting it spiral out of control. And I, I hope I've raised my kids well enough to understand that they can tell me anything, and that it's okay, that it's okay to make mistakes, and that it's okay to feel, and that's what I want my kids to know, that it's okay to feel. Don't bottle it up. Don't let it get out of control. Just come to me, even if you're angry. You just want to let it out. Scream if you want. I don't care. Like,
Yeah, even though it's a bad moment, sharing that moment with someone that's just listening to you or just even there, like physically just next to you, does create a good bond. Does create something that they can be like, you know what? Even though me and my dad probably didn't say nothing that day or whatever, he was there with me. He was there next to me, and he listened, whether I said something or not. Yeah.
and I hope it extends out to their adult lives. Like I I wouldn't care if my daughter calls me when she's 30 or 20 something years old and tells me that her boyfriend broke up with her. I'll go and be over there with her. I don't care. She can come to my house. I don't care. I just want to make sure my kids are okay and that
Yep.
they're allowing themselves to feel it.
Yeah, making yourself available to them and for them to understand that, hey, I'm here. You don't have to.
These
Yeah.
these are my babies. Like I love them and I want them to know that. I want them to be here for them, regardless of whether I'm in a different state, whether they decide to move, or whether I don't know. Maybe at some point they decide to stop talking to me. That doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna be here, regardless. No matter what happens, I'm always gonna be their dad. And it doesn't matter if we got into a fight or you decided that maybe one of my kids gets into a rebellious phase and they're like, uh, fuck you. I don't want you to be my dad. All right, cool. Well, I'll be here when you decide that you do want me to be your dad, and let me know. So yeah.
What if, I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen this, but what if you would take your kids to one of these shows, the Scared Straight or the Dr. Phil show or other shows, right? And somehow they're just like, you know what? They showed me this path, as in like what happens if I continue my path, and somehow they like it.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't show that on live TV.
Yeah, right.
Just because,
Like there's too many good outcomes in those shows. I'm like, really? You're telling me this whole big batch of kids, not one of them is gonna be like, yeah, I want to continue doing this. Not one of them, really.
yeah. I don't know, man. Like,
I would
if I
feel
saw
bad.
that would be weird. That would be a weird instance to actually see. Like that one kid in the corner who's like, yeah, I want to be like Killer. Yeah, yeah. It would just be so fucking weird to see that. I don't know, man. Like, in those situations, like you're so conditioned to seeing the positive outcome of kids going into these talk shows that if you actually saw a negative one, it would feel weird to actually see that. You know,
I feel like they would get more criticism, even though they would probably put in there just one out of the so many so many episodes that they have.
so we can honestly pull from our own personal experiences. I mean, you grew up in the hood, and I grew up in the hood. I mean, um, we can honestly say that there was some bad experiences where people should not have been in, and kids were growing up learning that bad things were cool. Like tagging up walls or doing shit that they're not supposed to, which then evolved into uh, like some of our personal friends, unfortunately, that we were talking about personally, you and I, we were talking about last week that unfortunately went down a bad road and started doing hard drugs, trying to be popular, and then
Yeah,
going into
started.
even harder.
Yeah, started selling drugs and yeah.
And then so much potential wasted just because of being raised in that environment and just seeing the bad and thinking it was cool and just wanting to be accepted into those things. And it's unfortunate. I don't think they'll ever show it on TV in one of those shows, but we can speak about it because we've actually lived through it. We've actually seen it, and it's a very surreal thing to see, especially knowing them for the way they were before to how they are now.
Yeah,
and knowing me.
seeing friends fall off. Oh man, it's one of the weirdest, toughest things seeing. Uh,
Yeah,
it's like you were doing so good. What happened? What happened? So yeah.
yeah. It's unfortunately the environment that you're raised in, and it's unfortunately probably the number one for me is drugs. I've seen friends start drugs and they just spiral out of control, man. Just
Yeah. So that's all this talk is just pretty much pushes me even further to be a better parent and to make them understand that there's many roads you can take. I'm trying to guide you, I'm trying to show you, I'm trying to make you learn what each one is going to offer in the long run. Not just right now, in the long run as well too. So, yeah, and all has to do with discipline and communication, man. It really does. As much as some people might think not, it has to do with it a lot. Some kids need to get spanked. Some kids don't need to get spanked, and they just need to be felt loved or hugged or just talked to or just be next to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, our job is to figure out which is the best way to raise our kids and hope that we do the best job that we could. And
the one that I think it's hard is the parents, single parents. Whether you were widowed, divorced, or just single parent in the first place, and didn't work out or whatever. Trying to do both jobs is hard. Trying to do both jobs is hard.
Very much, and it's especially in this day and age with kids and technology and social media and all this stuff. It's hard for single parents to really try to alliterate what they're trying to do because they're seeing all these fabulous lives of these kids that have both parents and doing all these things. And I mean, hell, my kids watch this little Asian kid unwrap freaking toys and stuff, making like millions of dollars.
We know who it is, Pete. You can say the name. We know who it is.
I just don't want to get copyrighted or whatever.
This kid's gonna make more money than I will ever
in a lifetime.
Yes, probably both lifetimes. If you believe in reincarnation,
he makes more money in a year than I do in 2 lifetimes. But it's crazy because as a single parent, I've had to have that talk with my kids before. It's like don't idolize what other people have. Don't sit there and want what they want. Appreciate what you got. And yes, it's okay to want things. It's okay to want things, but it's not okay to, how do I put it, to obsess about what other people have. And that's one thing I've had to actually have a recent talk with my kids about, just because of like Christmas time and all that stuff, and they want, and it's something that I had to start going over with.
COVID's hitting hard, everybody, money wise, everything. Yeah. This brings me to our final thing that I wanted to say is revealing what we're going to talk about next week. Next week on Monday. Before we go there, though, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been listening to us today, whether you're a single mom, single dad, separated, widowed, divorced, whatever, all in between. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully this gives you some knowledge. Hopefully this gives you an eye-opener. And it's good talking to you guys, because not only this show was about saying stuff that most guys won't admit to say or don't want to say, but also as growing as a parent. You know what I mean? This is good knowledge, good understanding from different perspectives, different walks of life. So I'm really grateful for all of this. So who are we having next week, Pete?
It's actually a guest that wants to be anonymous, and we're actually going to refer to him as John Doe. and he's actually going to be talking about not being able to. Basically, his kid, his child, lives with his baby mama, and he doesn't live in the same place as his child. Um, and then also his living vicariously through children. That's going to be another subject we're going to talk about, and we'll go more into detail on the episode. But basically, what that means is when a parent instills their hopes and dreams, and they're living their life through you, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't have to go through that, so that's going to be a very interesting subject next week. And yeah. Before we wrap this up, once again, I want to thank everybody who's listening, who's watching this live, or who's hearing us while they're way to work or wherever you're going. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. This video, I'm gonna have it up by tomorrow, and it's gonna be on YouTube. You guys can go ahead and rewatch it or watch it for the first time. We also have a Twitter and an Instagram. We're gonna go ahead and pretty much get all that stuff compressed, as in like pretty much try to get it on the page, because I know there's a way to do it, right, Pete?
yeah, we're going to have it on the page, and also we're also on Spotify if you guys want to listen on there. But yeah, we're going to be pretty much on all platforms here soon. We're just working the kinks out, and yeah, we're going to have the links for Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. But yeah, feel free to follow us on any one of those. But yeah, again, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for the feedback. That has really helped us. Feedback, keep it coming. We honestly appreciate it. Any little thing that we can improve on, let us know. I mean, even if it's audio or if it's lighting or anything, just let us know. I mean, we always have room to grow, and again, we appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, guys. Good night.